Oliver Burkeman explores how much of human dysfunction is rooted in a fundamentally mistaken understanding of time. Society conditions us to view time as a resource we have and can control, but in reality, all we ever truly have is the present moment. This illusion spurs futile attempts to dominate or manage time, leading to frustration and anxiety, because time will ultimately win the battle. The idea that we can stockpile or put aside time for later is false, and our limited control over how time unfolds exacerbates our suffering. This misunderstanding shapes many life behaviors, such as procrastination and distraction, which can be regarded as our attempts to feel less limited by time. Humans tend to overestimate how much control they have over external events and their own emotions, resulting in patterns of gripping tightly to illusions of mastery rather than accepting the unpredictable nature of life. This broken relationship with time lies at the root of dissatisfaction and unease felt by many. Burkeman critiques the dominant cultural ethos that equates doing more things with inherent goodness or moral worth. The prevailing belief is that completing an ever-expanding to-do list is automatically better and should make us feel better about ourselves. However, true meaningfulness is not measured by the sheer quantity of tasks accomplished, but by what we do and the quality of presence we bring to those actions. Underlying this drive to do more is an entanglement with self-worth, fueled historically by capitalism and Protestant work ethic. This mindset traps us in a cycle where busyness is valorized regardless of the activity's value or impact. Burkeman highlights that this definition of a meaningful life is fundamentally flawed and cannot be the basis for genuine satisfaction or fulfillment. A central theme in the conversation is humanity's overconfidence in its degree of control over life's outcomes. We cling to the fantasy that we can manage or predict everything, but this leads to persistent disappointment and anxiety. Rather than fostering acceptance of uncertainty, this illusion causes us to grasp more tightly at control, deepening stress instead of alleviating it. Burkeman draws parallels to historical contexts where uncertainty was more stark and obvious, such as medieval times when war and famine could obliterate one's life suddenly. Modern technology paradoxically increases the illusion of control even as it floods us with endless tasks and responsibilities. This false hope causes us to chase productivity hacks and silver bullets that promise order but ultimately only increase busyness and inner tension. Instead of seeking final solutions or silver bullet fixes, Burkeman suggests embracing the ongoing irresolvability of life's anxiety-inducing dilemmas. After testing numerous productivity and happiness quick fixes, he realized that the problem is not solved by adding more techniques, but rather by shifting the mindset away from hoping for a definitive cure. This approach involves accepting fundamental human limitations and working with uncertainty rather than against it. By living fully into this acceptance, calmness can emerge alongside more genuine productivity. Burkeman emphasizes that acceptance is not synonymous with passivity or resignation, but rather the groundwork for deliberate and meaningful action despite limitations. Limit-embracing life is a key framework Burkeman puts forward, which involves recognizing and accepting key existential facts. There is always more to do than we can do, uncertainty will never go away, and emotional pain or discomfort is inevitable at times. This recognition, he argues, paradoxically opens a path to greater calm and authentic engagement with life. Rather than flinching from these truths, limit embracing invites us to stop pretending we can conquer or fully control time and our circumstances. The battle against these realities is endless and costly in energy. Accepting limits allows one to focus on what genuinely matters in the finite time we have, fostering a clearer, calmer way to live and work. Burkeman uses the metaphor of being in a small kayak versus commanding a luxurious superyacht to illustrate our true relationship with time and control. The cultural fantasy is that we captains of superyachts whose journeys can be precisely planned and executed, commanding the forces around us. Reality is closer to being in a vulnerable one-person kayak on a flowing and unpredictable river. This kayak metaphor captures our finite agency shaped by uncontrollable currents, unknown bends, and ever-present uncertainty. Embracing this vulnerability leads to more authentic decision-making and presence. Accepting that we are not in control of the grand voyage, but can only steer small moments, helps us let go of illusion and find deeper engagement with our finite existence. Burkeman admits to his own struggles with perfectionism, describing it as a dysfunctional stance that insists everything measure up to impossible fantasy standards. Perfectionism ultimately stifles creativity, progress, and joy by clamping down on the natural messiness of doing and living. The pursuit of perfection often masquerades as an effort to gain control, but instead creates paralysis and dissatisfaction. He recommends cultivating a healthy relationship with imperfection, which means embracing the idea that creating or working well does not demand suffering or flawless execution. Techniques like free writing, allowing oneself to produce messy work without censorship, help loosen perfectionist grips. Imperfection offers freedom to act and improve incrementally rather than being immobilized by idealized benchmarks. Completing tasks generates what Burkeman calls mystical energy. The act of finishing something, even small or imperfectly, releases motivation, confidence, and momentum, strengthening agency and helping overcome feelings of overwhelm. Conversely, perfectionism and multitasking often lead to fragmented efforts and chronic incompletion, draining emotional resources. One practical tool emphasized is maintaining a done list, which contrasts with the stressful to-do list. Recording accomplished tasks, no matter how small, highlights actual progress and reaffirms one's capacity to act. This positive feedback loop combats feelings of inadequacy and the illusion that there is always infinitely more to do, fostering a healthier, more empowering perspective on productivity. Burkeman reframes procrastination not as a moral failing, but as a symptom of deeper dynamics. One productive form of procrastination is wise procrastination, where one consciously chooses which tasks to prioritize while accepting that most things remain undone. This counters the paralyzing belief that everything must be completed immediately and perfectly. The problematic side of procrastination often stems from fear of vulnerability, fear of failure, embarrassment, or discomfort associated with moving forward on meaningful goals. Understanding the emotional roots underlying avoidance helps individuals address procrastination more compassionately and effectively. Recognizing avoidance patterns and choosing small, manageable actions often frees people from indecision and self-criticism. A common misconception that Burkeman highlights is that true meaning and fulfillment reside in the future, causing many to treat the present as merely a provisional phase to get through. The cultural emphasis on deferred gratification encourages endless preparation for some idealized future moment when real life or happiness will begin. This mindset sacrifices joy and presence in the now. Instead, Burkeman urges cultivating appreciation and engagement with the present moment, recognizing that the here and now is all we truly have in this finite life. Experiences, relationships, and meaning arise in daily interactions and decisions, not only in far-off outcomes. Shifting focus toward present-centered living helps break free from the trap of living for some hypothetical future self. An example of embracing imperfection and presence in everyday life is Burkeman's advocacy for scruffy hospitality, a term borrowed from Anglican pastor Jack King. This practice involves inviting people into one's home or life without pretense or the pressure to create perfect, polished experiences. It celebrates authenticity and the messy reality of human life. This philosophy fosters connection through vulnerability and honesty. Rather than striving for flawless appearances or performances, scruffy hospitality embraces imperfection as a form of generosity and relational intimacy. Burkeman notes that such openness resonates deeply, as people often crave genuine, behind-the-scenes insight rather than curated facades. This approach reduces social anxiety and nurtures real belonging. A key thread in the discussion is dispelling the myth that life can be fully mastered or controlled through productivity systems or optimization. Burkeman stresses that accepting life's inherent messiness, uncertainty, and limitation is the foundation for true agency. Only by starting from reality as it is, not as we wish it to be, can we begin to make meaningful choices and move forward. He warns against the seductive idea that mastery or perfect control will come one day through discipline or technique. Instead, the path to agency lies in accepting finitude and vulnerability while still committing to purposeful action. This paradoxical stance marries surrender with engagement, allowing one to harness focus and energy without being paralyzed by unrealistic expectations. Burkeman critiques the contemporary culture of self-optimization that offers supposedly precise prescriptions for improving health, productivity, and longevity. While recognizing the utility of some efficiency improvements or health practices, he points out that relentless optimization carries the risk of creating busier lives focused on throughput rather than fulfillment. He highlights the crucial question often ignored in optimization. Optimization for what? Without clarity of purpose, efforts to maximize productivity or health can become ends in themselves, disconnected from deeper values or meaning. Burkeman cautions against viewing health span extension or workflow hacks as escapes from mortality or discomfort. Instead, such practices should support a rich engagement with life rather than reinforce denial or control fantasies.